Welcome, everybody. Good evening. This is our online exhibit opening, our very first. And, I so look forward to doing this in person. We are on the very end of our lockdown and look forward to, engaging with our community in more traditional ways. But tonight, we are doing our first ever virtual exhibit opening, and we're here to celebrate, Front Steps, People and Community, our new exhibit that's in the storefront of the Counting House in Market Square. We're very pleased to have with us Laura Kozlowski, the photographer who is the main developer of images that were part of the Front Steps project, and Lindsey Haight, Executive Director of Our Neighbor's Table. I'll say this project began with a concept with Amesbury Chamber of Commerce, was a way of spotlighting different people in the Amesbury community, and in that process to generate recognition and support for a really important social program in Amesbury, Our Neighbor's Table. Catherine Brojo was not able to join us tonight, but Laura Kozlowski can talk a little bit about how the project worked. And after Laura, Lindsey Haight can talk about how the pandemic really affected the needs of our community and how Our Neighbor's Table was able to step up and support that. Before I turn the program over to Laura, just wanted to acknowledge that this project, our exhibit, was supported through a grant that we received from the Mass Cultural Council. And for those who, are eager users of events and different programs throughout Massachusetts, the Cultural Council is such an important agency supporting our work, and we're very grateful that we received this grant to make this exhibit happen. The other thing I wanted to mention, because of this project, we've set up our very first online exhibit gallery. So if you visit our website, theindustrialhistorycenter.org, you'll find our online gallery, and you'll see this exhibit, and you'll also see Aperture on Amesbury from 2019, and we're about to launch our 2021 Aperture on Amesbury project. So that'll be something that we'll develop. I'm gonna turn over the program to Laura Kozlowski. And Laura, if you're willing, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your work imaging the community for the Front Steps project and how that went for you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Kozlowski. I'm a photographer. I grew up in this area, but never really knew Amesbury. And when the pandemic hit, I was only living here for about a year. So I reached out I had heard about these Front Steps projects in other communities, and I reached out to Catherine and Phil at the chamber and said, well, maybe we should do something like this to help the community, get through this uncertain time. So I reached out to them, and Catherine was great at getting everybody together, organizing it. She had this great spreadsheet. So every day she would give me a bunch of names to go find these addresses and families. And I did it for about a month. I did it probably 5 to 6 families a day. I only tried to do like half a day because it could be a long day. And not knowing the area, it was a great way for me to get out and see the area and see what a great community we have. It's very diverse in landscape and with its people. So I had really kind of didn't know what to expect with this, but it ended up to be a very fun project. And so it gave me every day gave me a kind of a sense of normalcy and purpose during all this uncertainty. Also being self-employed, not knowing what was around the next month. So what I did is I would take those addresses and plot them out in Google Maps. And then I would go to each house, and I would have a long lens, and I stayed more than 6 feet away. And I didn't know what to expect every time the door opened. It was just a bunch of smiling faces. It was just, everybody's so excited to see somebody human, and make that contact, even though it was a distance thing. It was great because they saw somebody besides their family. The best one, I don't know if you've seen, but the picture of the girl holding the guinea pigs. I was running late, and I turned the corner, and there she was, just standing there with these 2 guinea pigs. And it's like, how do you just not smile when you see that? And she didn't say anything, and she was just patiently waiting for me. And it was one of the greatest moments of the project. So besides guinea pigs, I met chickens, I met cats, I met kittens, I met dogs. I met soccer players, new moms, multitasking moms, nurses, extended families, excited kids, and even a man dressed as a piece of poo. It was really fun. So let me show you some of the pictures. I know you've seen some probably online, or if you've had a chance to go downtown, there's probably there's 8 pictures down there.
Yeah. Laura, how many images did you make for the Front Steps project?
So I had a whole month. So we did at least 150 families. We raised about $7,000 for our neighbor's table. So what it was a loose kind of project where I would come to the door, take a family photo, they would get it virtually, and in kind, they would donate to our greatest local charity, our neighbor's table. So it was a great thing. I think we raised close to 6,000. I can't remember, 6,000 or 7,000. I can't remember. I mean, Lindsay would know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so these guys were very happy. They always liked happy hour. Some people just wanted a nice portrait, and then kids were just running around wild. So it was a lot of fun. Didn't know what I would expect or how people would dress, or there's a giant piece of poo. Some people had a lot more fun than others with it. Yeah, so it was great. And I guess the takeaway for me was it made me slow down and realize, I think with a lot of families, what was more important versus just running to work every day and trying to make ends meet. It was more about the community and awesome. Smiles and trying to find some kind of normalcy in all of this. That's Catherine, and she's not here.
Laura, if people wanted to find your gallery, is that still up?
Yes, it's still in I don't know if the chamber has it listed somewhere.
Okay.
Or the Front Steps project has a website, but it is still up. This is what I'm referring to right now. So
yeah. So you know what? We will make sure that we share that link, and we'll have it, as part of what we have on our website too.
Okay.
So that's awesome.
Okay.
That's great. So thank you, Laura. Your images are amazing. In our gallery that's down in Market Square, our storefront gallery, we have 9 portraits that are on view. And one of the things that Laura was able to provide was a statement from each of the families. So it's pretty, a personal, expression of the moment, we were in the lockdown and how we all got through that. And I think the other part of this, of course, is how those portraits supported our neighbor's table. So now I'm going to turn over to Lindsey Haight. Lindsey is with us. She's the Executive Director of our neighbor's table. And Lindsey, thank you so much for being with us. Can you, just provide some comments about the pandemic and how your program was affected by that?
Yeah, sure. And so just quickly, for those of you who might not be familiar, it's nice to know there's a nice broad regional representation here. So our neighbors table is based in Amesbury, but we provide hunger relief food assistance to 12 cities and towns in northeastern Essex County. And we've been around since 1992. and have really taken pride in how we have been able to mobilize the community in the spirit of food security and food access for all. And in fact, a really wonderful highlight was that in 2018, we declared the city of Amesbury our very first food secure city. So people don't have to go hungry in Amesbury. Not to say that people don't, and as we learned in 2020, hard times strike for a lot of different reasons and often unexpectedly. And but even in the height of the pandemic, we were able to provide enough food access to Amesbury residents that fewer than 6% of families reported to the school system that food was a concern last summer. So really a testament to how committed every member of the Amesbury community, from municipal departments, the school system, the councils on aging, the libraries, local citizens, as you're hearing and seeing tonight, really it is the result of that. And so to be able to maintain universal food access for everyone throughout a pandemic certainly is a source of pride for everyone involved in our mission. So I'm going to just throw up a couple pictures here. One of the other sources of pride for our Neighbors Table and the city of Amesbury is the central market that we were able to build and open in 2016. And so I'm going to show you a picture of what that looks like now, if I can get back to you all. So you can see here, the Jardis Taylor Center, the market that we built here in Amesbury, has really become a model for actually in the last 6 months, we've seen this model really getting a lot of traction across the country with other food banks who recognize that service with dignity and providing people just a genuine shopping experience is so valuable in getting people to come out at a very vulnerable time in their lives. And so we built this market and opened it in 2016. We built another one in Newburyport in 2018, and we have several other mobile pop-up sites in Amesbury and Merrimack that we host. Unfortunately, COVID forced us all to close those sites to the public, but we couldn't interrupt our food access. And so we were able to pivot pretty quickly to a curbside pickup model. But a key part of our model was to allow people to shop for the kinds of food and the amount of food that was right for their family. And so in 8 days, at the end of March, in 8 days, we unrolled an online shopping platform and live inventory. So people could shop live every day to be able to pick up orders. So you see some volunteers here picking it up, and they would set a 15-minute appointment window and come and pick it up the next day. And in and out they were within 15 minutes. It was probably more efficient than any trip any of us took to one of our local grocery stores. And a recent survey of over 500 households, our guests reported 85% of them said that we were able to meet their food needs through this pandemic. And I think it was well over 95% reported feeling welcome and safe. And that this was, an environment where they felt that they could come and get their food throughout the pandemic. So really took a lot of pride in being able to do that. Just some quick numbers so in total, in 2020, we served over 5,100 people, more than 1.3 million meals. That's across all 12 cities and towns. Out of the markets, doing curbside pickup in Amesbury and Newburyport locations, and doing a lot of home deliveries, particularly for our seniors in the housing authority communities and across the region. In Amesbury alone, last year we served 937 households, which is more than 1,900 Amesbury residents, more than 10% of the population, a total of 550,000 pounds of groceries. And then our Wednesday dinner, which runs out of the Main Street Congregational Church, downtown Amesbury, and has been since 1992, switched to an all takeout meal, and we saw a double in people attending to get dinners, and we put out over 15,000 plated meals in takeout form in 2020. So we saw a huge increase in that. And here's just a picture of some folks packaging everything up. So really having to pivot, just like our local restaurants had to figure out how to work in a takeout model. We did the same. So as Laura mentioned, the Front Steps project, this is actually our Front Steps photo that Laura came and took of our staff. I think first and foremost, it was so endearing. Being able to connect with our neighbors is part of the joy of our Neighbors Table's mission, and we have been missing that terribly over the last year. So being able to see all of these photographs of families out on their front steps in their homes, smiling without masks on, and just seeing that little bit of joy really warmed all of our hearts. It just reminded us of what was going on out there. We knew you were all out there, even if we couldn't see you face to face anymore. And so it was incredible to be able to connect with people in that way, in that spirit. And as Laura mentioned, they raised over $6,500. Well over 100 families took photos and raised enough for us to provide the equivalent of 7,000 meals out of our market. So, we were just so grateful, and it really was just kind of the spearheading for us to see, the community turn out, and anyone who could lent their time if they were able to come and safely volunteer with us. I think we still oriented and brought in well over 100 new volunteers last year during the pandemic, and people continued to give whenever and however they could. So, we're still trucking, we're still going in the same kind of model, hoping to welcome in more volunteers and look for ways to safely reopen our programs. But the most important thing is that there's never been an interruption in food access across our region. So we couldn't do that without folks like all of you, and we're super grateful for that.
Thank you, Lindsey. And I know if people are interested, they can just go to the Our Neighbors Table website, and there's probably a way to provide some support if they're interested, if they felt like they missed out.
Yes, ourneighborstable.org.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we when we were planning our year in 2021, of course, we had no idea how we were going to move through the pandemic. But knowing what everyone had gone through, we embraced a theme for the year, which was to celebrate the people of Amesbury. And this project came up as something that we could spotlight. So I think Meryl Goldsmith suggested that we reach out to Laura Kozlowski. We learned about the project, and one thing led to another, and we, were able to showcase the small selection of photographs in the Counting House storefront. So I'm thrilled to be connected to Laura and now you, Lindsey. And actually, there's another funny connection just in how Greg Jardis had been a major supporter of the rebuilding of Our Neighbors Table. And Greg has been a major supporter of our work to create the Industrial History Center. And I'm awfully proud and grateful to have this connection. And I look forward to doing more work and future work with you, Lindsey, and you, Laura, as well. So, what I thought I would do is just invite anybody who's on the call, if you might have a question for me or for Laura or for Lindsey. We have a little bit more time, and we could entertain questions if you have them. You could either, post it in chat or, unmute yourself and feel free to ask away. And I'll point out again that one of the wonderful parts of the project that Laura was able to bring forward in our display are some of the first-person quotes from the families who were imaged in the project. So that was pretty wonderful. Yeah, Pat, did you have a question?
I have a comment and a question. So first of all, Laura, thank you for your photographs. They're amazing. And Lindsay, I have a question for you about our neighbor's table. I've always wondered what are the requirements? Are there any requirements for a person to come in and get some food? And two, do they pay for it at all?
So all of our food is offered free of charge. And the only requirement is that you live in one of the 12 cities and towns that we serve. And I do get asked that question all the time. And the truth is, we really appreciate how difficult it is for anyone to ask for help. And particularly in your own community, to have to raise your hand and say, I can't put food on my table, or I can't feed my own kids. And so we are really committed to making sure that we eliminate all of the barriers between people and the food that they need. And so we certainly saw a tremendous increase in the number of families with children over the pandemic year. They were probably the hardest hit, but we want to make sure that people can come. Word of mouth is our biggest source of referral from other guests. So once somebody's coming and shopping with us and realize how easy it is, they're the ones who are bringing in, you know, their neighbors or friends who also need it, or people come and shop for their neighbor who is too afraid to come forward. So we try to eliminate as many of those barriers as we can.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really amazing program.
I'd like to ask a question, Lindsay. Your comments that you made, are those? There were a lot of stats and data in that. Is that on your website to highlight the successes of how you pivoted?
Yeah, if you actually go, our annual report is published on our website. If you go to ourneighborstable.org to the About page, that'll actually give you an overview of our different partnerships. Then our annual report is in the impact. I think if you actually go to ourneighborstable.org/impact,
Okay.
our annual report will be right there.
Boy, because that's quite an accomplishment. I mean, that alone is just so impressive. How are you guys able to do that? Do you have, I know you said you did it within 8 days, but I mean, how do you really do that in 8 days? That's amazing.
A lot of coffee. We had an amazing, you know, this is not one person. We had an amazing volunteer who was retired from a career in supply chain and logistics. And
yes,
and she could help us with the inventory system and you know, some experience that I and some other members of our team had to be able to partner with a software company that had this capability and be able to do it. It normally would take 8 to 10 weeks to roll it out. And we just stayed up for 8 days until it was done. And then we slept.
Well,
but it was a commitment. Yeah.
I'm about to lose my battery on my laptop, so I'll probably disappear, but I really commend you. I'm in that type of business where it takes at least 10 weeks to get something like that going. So kudos to your staff and to your capabilities. And I'll go to your website and visit that impact section and rebroadcast that. And, you know, like you said, hopefully bring in some awareness. So
Awesome. Thank
you all. I'm sorry I didn't plan better with more battery power, but I enjoyed this very much, and I'll be in touch with your organizations. Bye, Laura. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Say hi to Eli.
Thank you. I will. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So why don't I do a last call if there's another question, and if not, I just want to say again, many thanks, Laura, for your good work and for your collaboration, and Lindsay, to you for your leadership with Our Neighbor's Table. It's a wonderful part of Amesbury and the region, and so it's fabulous to bring some attention to that. So I'm going to thank everybody for joining us this evening. I look forward to seeing people in person. we're going to do more openings, and, we'll be at the Industrial History Center, we hope very soon. Our plan, we're working towards a grand opening in October, but stay in touch and you'll hear more about what we're doing. And we're expecting that we'll have some soft openings from now to then. And it'll be great to be in person and celebrate a little bit more traditionally. So thank you, everybody, for this. And Meryl, do you want to just pull up our sponsor slide? We have one thing we want to recognize. We're able to do our programs through the generous support of people who step up and help underwrite our work. Our annual sponsors, Ed Selden and Lisa Witham, Amesbury Chair, Amesbury Industrial Supply, and Greg Jardas, BB Alarm System, and Sacris Design with Jennifer Sanborn. And then our program sponsors, Wayne Barbaro, Michael Harold and Leah Kabine, Peter and Patty Hoyt, and Tom Pendergast. So I want to say thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Mass Cultural Council for their help in making this come together. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Lindsay. And thanks to the Amesbury Chamber of Commerce, who had the great idea to make this thing a project. So I wish you all well. Keep in touch with us, and we'll see you live and in person soon at the Industrial History Center. I appreciate all your interest and support. So good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.